Hey crew, welcome back to the next video in our series. This one's going to be on installing those in-wall subwoofers. This one's straightforward and a little bit on the shorter side, around 9 minutes. And most of it's just going to be fast forward as we just follow the instructions and I narrate the process through that. As always, if you could hit those like and subscribe buttons, help me keep fresh content coming to you, and I hope you enjoy. When you're doing installation on speaker equipment such as this, just make sure to follow the directions and install it per the manufacturer's specs. Each one of these in-wall subs comes with height guides and depth guides to make sure we have the right height and depth into the channel there. So you see in the bottom I had that height setup that I had screwed in, and then there's also depth guides that you just pre-drill into the wall. Right now what I'm doing is I'm installing the brackets onto the top, and when I'm doing those I'm going to leave those a little bit loose, and I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom brackets. Just get the pilot hole started, and then once we get that set into the wall and I know exactly where I want them, it gives me just a little wiggle room to slide the brackets over and drill into the wall for the final placement. And like I had said, we're just going to follow the instructions step by step. These ones came very detailed. They just listed everything line by line what we had to do, and they had really good illustrations. If you have a little bit of just common building ability and are able to measure and are able to drill, you should be fine. If for whatever reason you don't have the ability to do this or you don't have the confidence to do it, don't do it. Call a professional to install them. Remember, these are in-wall subwoofers. They're going to be behind finished drywall. So if something isn't done right and there's a problem, you're probably going to have to demo finished drywall to fix it. So do it right the first time or call someone. This isn't one of the steps you want to skimp on. So now that I have those support brackets in, I'm just going to go ahead and reset this into the stud cavity. Again, it's got those templates on there that you just kind of set at the right height and the right depth into the stud cavity. I'm going to go ahead and anchor those in, and then after that I have those brackets on the top and bottom that I just screwed on, but I left a little loose to get some wiggle room in the wall. I'm just going to go ahead and slide those over tight to the studs and screw those into the studs. See, I'm moving the camera there to give you a better view of that. And then once I get those screwed into the studs, that's when I'm just going to go ahead and anchor those brackets down into the actual subwoofer itself. So you can see why I leave those loose, right? Just a little bit of slack there to get them into the stud. Then once it's in the stud, then you anchor them down the rest of the way into the subwoofer. And now we're just going to repeat that process for the bottom brackets. Now that we have that all done, we're just going to go ahead and remove those depth setting guides that we had screwed in earlier. Those no longer serve a purpose and they now just go in the garbage. They were just temporary fittings just to let us get the right height and depth into the cavity. Now I'm drilling a hole in that bottom stud. I'm going to feed my speaker wire through. Once I get that through, I'm just going to very carefully strip that so that I don't tear off any of those little tiny delicate strands of wire. And then we'll just use the push toggles and get those secured into the connections for the subwoofer. And that's about it for that one. We'll move on to the second one. I take that back. Before we move on to the second one, we do have this anti-vibration foam tape that we want to install onto these studs, and this comes as part of the kit and it's in with the instructions to install that. And what it basically is it's just an adhesive thin foam strip that goes on the studs, and it just kind of creates a little padding between the drywall and the stud cavity, and it fills any of those air spaces. So just make sure that your drywall sits really flush against that stud and also reduces any vibrations. As you watch the video here, you'll see that I'm using different screws for the different applications, right? For whether it's screwing it into the wall, putting the brackets on, screwing those brackets into the studs. Each one kind of has a different screw. That's not something I made up and decided what screws to use. Those were the ones that came with the kit, and the instructions tell you specifically which screws to use for which application and which step in the process. If you'll notice there, I ended up having to use my right angle driver attachment for my impact driver there. That's just because I was out of space. I didn't have an angle to actually fit my drill in to get the screws home, so that's where the right angle drill attachment comes in handy. Just going to slow the video down for a second so you can see the wire stripping method I'm using. This is a special kind of cable stripper, and what it has is a little spike and then kind of like a clamp or a hood that goes over the wire, and it just clamps in. And as you turn the wire stripper, you set that spike so it just goes down enough to score the sheath, and then you can pull the sheath off and then strip your wire. It stops you from going too deep and actually cutting into the wire, which is very easy to do on speaker wire. And that's about going to wrap up our video. We're just going to finish putting on that anti-vibration tape there, and we will move on to the next step in our project, which is going to be about doing some additional framing and some sheetrock work. We'll get videos in on that. Hope you like this video. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Otherwise, if you could just go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons for me, as always, help me keep that fresh content coming to you. Till next time, take care.